Morning guys. Today I'm just going to do a quick video on changing oil on a 2019 CB1000R. Obviously it's a lot easier on a bike like this than it is on, say, a fully fared CBR1000RR, which I have one of them too. But anyway, I'm just going to do a quick video on it for people that don't change their own oil to see how easy it is, and for people that just maybe want to see if there's anything different that they could do that would be better, or maybe even you have pointers for me. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, so this is the bike, obviously. The tools that you're gonna need. Basically, I've got a 5/16, 8 millimeters, about the same. I mean, almost identical, to take the filter cover off. You've got your 17 millimeter to take the plug out, the ratchet, and an oil filter wrench just in case you put it on a little too tight. I generally cut up a gallon-sized jug to drain the oil into, because regular car drain pans generally are too tall, so you're not going to be able to drain it into them. So anyway, let's try and get you set up so we can see and go from there. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to see everything I do, and I'll try to explain as we go. Okay. So a lot of times I'm going to pull the filter off first, because you're going to have oil come out of both places. So I've got an adapter here, so I don't need two ratchets. But there's just a couple bolts here. Take the filter cover off. Parts falling everywhere. So you got two bolts. Make sure you set them somewhere where you're not going to kick them. Covers off. Okay. You can use any kind of filter you want. I've been using STP filters lately just because they have them on hand at the AutoZone right down the street. Generally, I run K&N filters on most of my stuff, but AutoZone doesn't have them. Last night I was going to get in K&N, but Ashley picked everything up for me and she went to AutoZone, so this is what we got. But throw your filter wrench on, clamp her down. Okay, I put that on pretty tight last time, obviously. I don't know why. We didn't want her to come off. Okay. So, whoops. Getting a little oil on the exhaust. That'll just burn off. If I had a stand for this bike, because it's single-sided swing arm, it takes a special stand, and I haven't bought one yet. But if I had that, it probably wouldn't drain onto the exhaust because it'd be holding the bike straight up, which we're going to hold it straight up here anyway to get the oil to drain out. Basically just grab it. I'll actually take her a little pass straight up. I'll do that again after I get the main engine drained, and then we'll get everything out of it. So now we'll move over to the plug, switch to our 17 millimeter. She's up in between the exhaust pipes here, so I gotta kind of finagle everything a little bit. Make sure your drain pan's under there. I just rolled this in here so the exhaust is a little warm still. And it's always best to change your oil with the engine warm, because the oil is going to be thinner and run out better. So Makes it a little more of a pain to change because you're constantly in the heat, but it's better for the oil to drain. Ugh. Towels here that I forgot. Now while everything's draining, I'm going to pour oil into the new filter, and it's going to spill a little bit when you put it up on there, but at least your filter has oil in it, so you're not starving your engine for a little bit, filling, so the engine has to fill the filter for you. It's a little better for the bike. I mean, I don't know how much it's really going to make that big of a difference as far as the longevity of the bike, but it is going to make a difference. Running these synthetic oils, the oil sticks to the internal parts anyway, so it's not going to be as dry as it used to be back in the old days, but it's still something I like to do. It's something I was taught when I was younger, and it's just something I do just to play it a little safer. I'm just cleaning up oil on the filter seating area. So get out the new filter. So this is a little different than the last one the guy got me, but as long as it works, I guess. This is actually a nicer filter than that last one. And I just bought this bike, when did I buy it? End of April. So I've had it basically 2.5 months probably, and I am on the second oil change. I have about 3,700 miles on it. I change oil, try to do it every 3,000. So obviously the break-in oil change was between 600 and 700, and then now this is the first true oil change. So you're gonna fill this filter up, and it'll take oil down into it. So you can fill it up, let it sit, fill it up again. And while we're doing that, we'll also do this to try and get the bike to finish draining. See, there's still oil up in the filter channel, so I think we'll put the plug back in. That's about it for in there, so we don't forget to do that. Oop. Making a little bit of a mess on my floor. I'll just wipe it up with paper towels when I'm done. My shop's a little bit of a mess right now because I've been painting in here, so I've got plastic hanging on everything and some masking paper from unmasking what I was painting and stuff like that. Do some cleanup in here, but snug your plug just enough to keep it so it won't fall out. Don't over tighten it because you'll strip it out and then you'll be looking for a new oil pan for your engine. So let's tip this back up and get some more drainage out of the filter oil pump area, whatever you want to call it. Now you don't necessarily have to do this. I just like to make sure and get as much of the old oil out as I can. You can't get 100% of it out of the engine. There's always going to be a little bit left in there. So I can do this a little better. Now if you are working on a CB1000R, you have to pull the fairings off to do this, but it's basically the same exact setup once you get the fairings off. So everything's exactly the same other than taking the fairings off. So she's just dripping, that's good enough. Okay, so now the oil filter. Now another little trick that helps when you're putting your oil filter on is once you got enough oil in it, like I said, this is just keep it so the engine doesn't run dry for a second or two. Once you've got the filter full, take a little oil and spread it on the gasket. This will help the oil filter screw onto the engine, and the gasket will slide so it won't bind up and end up kinking. Like I said, we're gonna have a little bit of oil spill out, but that's okay. Just because I'd rather make a little bit of a mess than run the engine dry for a couple seconds. I'll wipe as much of this oil off here as we can. Okay, and I usually, because I've got filter wrenches and stuff, give it just a little snug. As you can see, it gets it kind of tight because the filter does kind of seat itself too. But I like to just make sure, oops, wrong way. Get it on there, just give her a little snug up like that. All right, filter's on, plugs back in, everything's tight. Always double check just to make sure if you're worried about it. Put your filter cover on. Now a lot of people think that's probably just for looks, but it actually does protect the filter too. I mean, there's nothing really protecting it on these naked bikes. You know, fully faired bikes, yeah, the fairings protect your oil filter and stuff. But on these, a rock comes flying up, could put a hole in your oil filter and end your day, right? So, okay. And these bolts, same thing, they're pretty small, so don't over tighten them. Basically just use your hand on the very end, almost like a screwdriver, and that'll be good enough. Just like that. Now we just fill it with oil. So, in the filling with oil, all bikes are different. This one takes almost 4 quarts. You're gonna want to check your owner's manual or figure out how much your bike takes before you do it. Okay guys, I was gonna end it there, but I decided that if somebody that's never changed oil before is watching this, we probably better show them everything. So, I'm gonna pick you back up for a second. Basically, I already pulled the plug out of the engine right there. Now, every engine's gonna have a little bit different area where they might put it in, but it's gonna be pretty close to the same. So, your plug is right there. Set you up over here so you can see. Try to anyway. Like I said, this bike holds almost 4 quarts. So you got your filter here. She's been sitting on the shelf for a month. And you got spiders like we do down here in Oklahoma. They like to crawl in and make spider webs in it. So make sure they're cleaned out. Spray a little carburetor cleaner through it. Wipe it out. And should be good to go. Okay. Put your little funnel in there. Like I said, almost 4 quarts. So we'll start pouring them in. Use your partial from filling your your oil filter first. Now this bike has a sight glass on it. My CBR does not. It's got an actual dipstick. So, I don't know. I think I almost like the dipstick better. The sight glass varies too much. You can tilt your bike just a little bit one way or the other, and you can be full or empty. So it's, I guess the dipstick's the same way. but it just doesn't seem, I don't know. Maybe they're both okay. Sight glass is easier to see and to check your oil when you're first starting out in the day. So I'm using Mobil 1 Racing 4T. Now, there's tons of oils out there, tons of them are good. I mean, obviously your synthetics are going to be the best. I think Honda's oil is a semi-synthetic, but it's been, they've got it figured out. They know what they're doing, right? Mobil 1's been around for as long as I've been around, so they're obviously good too. I'll never forget when they first came out with Mobil 1, they took a NASCAR car at the Daytona Speedway, drove it around the track 10 laps, pulled it into the pits, dropped all the oil out of it, drove it around for another 10 laps, and it never blew up with no oil. So that's what synthetics do, is they coat the engine. So it helps if you do run low. So now you do want to make sure if you've got a wet clutch, like this bike has a wet clutch, that you get oil that is compatible with wet clutch primaries. So like Mobil 1's Racing 4T, it's got a picture of a little crotch rocket, but it's compatible with wet clutch primary and your transmission and engine all in one, right? So now they do make Mobil 1 that has a picture of, looks like a Cruiser or a Harley on it. That is not going to be compatible, and your automotive Mobil 1s are not going to be compatible. You got to get the one that's compatible with your bike. Research and make sure you get the right oil for your bike. You know, like I said, you don't have to use Mobil 1. This is what I use. Honda makes oil, Repsol makes oil, Motul, Castrol. I mean, there's all sorts of oil brands, and they're all decent. Pennzoil, whatever. Just make sure you get the right kind of oil, no matter what brand you use, for your bike. That is very important, or you're going to wreck your clutch. So after I put 3 quarts in, we'll check and see if we're in the sight glass, and we'll go from there, because I think it's like basically 3.5 is what you end up using. Maybe a little more because of the filter. Okay, so you can see he's leaning on the kickstand. It's not even in the sight glass yet. So we stand her up straight with 3 quarts in her, and she's just at the low side of the sight glass, right? So that's with 3 full quarts. It's actually right, but I think if I run it, it'll go down a little bit. We'll see. You run it, you want to put your cap on. You don't need oil spraying out. Neutral, so your bike doesn't run across the shop on you. That should be long enough for the oil to be all through. Come back over here and look at the sight glass, and yeah, now she's not even touching the glass. So like I said, about 3.5 quarts. A little more, a little less. You just got to look and keep pouring until you get to the right spot. Ashley just came out here. Let's have her hold the bike straight up so I don't have to keep doing that. She says no. I'm sure they heard that anyway. She basically just got up and she doesn't want to show herself. But she's coming over to help anyway. Maybe. Come on, Ash. Just hold the bike straight up like that. You stand right in front of it. If it does start to tip, pull it to that side that the kickstand's on. You're letting it tip this way. Hold it straight up. There you go. Okay, so Ashley's going to help us out by holding the bike up, and we'll be able to tell where to pour the oil without having to keep tipping it up. Now, like I said, if you bought the right stand for the bike, the stand would do this for you. But I have not bought a stand yet. Tip it that way, just a hair. You're still a little bit this way. Okay, so the oil's actually pretty close now that the engine's drained back down. We're going to add just a little bit. Okay, so 3.5 quarts exactly. I don't know if you guys can see the sight glass or not right there. See if I can get a good picture of it. You see how it is right there? It is basically just below the completely full standing up straight. The completely full line is right there. So there it is. That's full oil change. Don't forget to put your oil cap back on. And this will be the end of the video. Adopt, don't shop, and we'll catch you on the flip side.